This is Nicole Ferguson, and I'm the Director of Student Conduct. Our office title is actually the Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards, as you can see here on your screen. I'm creating this tutorial so that you can see how to submit an incident report in Maxient. This also applies to any kind of informational report, which you'll learn about from your training in housing. So the first thing you need to do is go to our student conduct page. You can get there a number of ways. You can use these tabs up at the top, or you can just Google CSU Pueblo student conduct. Once you get to the page, you'll want to scroll down a little bit to this section that says incident reporting form, this red button, and click. This form is the form that you'll need to fill out. As you can see, this is where we fill out academic integrity, student behavioral conduct, sexual misconduct, or other general student concerns. Obviously, if you have an emergency, please report to 911 and follow your CSU Pueblo housing protocol, and then come fill out this form. We do ask that you fill it out no later than 24 hours because then you will remember everything that occurred during the incident. So also know that I check this during business hours, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if it's something that's urgent and it happens after 5 p.m., please contact your direct supervisor. So the first thing you'll need to do is fill out your name. I will use mine. Your relation to campus. Here you'll say RA, DA, etc. Your phone number, typically I would ask that you put a number in here like the office number or the desk number. I would not put your personal cell phone number because we know how to contact you, so we don't need that information. You could also leave it blank if that made you feel more comfortable. So for your email, I'll fill that out and put my email in here. The nature of this report is, let's say it's a residence life informational report. So there's a difference between these reports, and this is very important because students mess this up every year. So please pay attention to this part. Student conduct means that a behavioral concern occurred. So there was an alcohol violation, a marijuana violation, there was bullying, any kind of thing where maybe somebody broke the law or could have gotten hurt. That's a student conduct concern. A residence life informational report is maybe you saw a beer can in the lobby of Calibra. You don't know who it belonged to, but you just need to report that you saw something out of place or you saw some sort of violation. That would be an informational report. Another example of an informational report would be maybe law enforcement comes and says, hey, somebody ran into somebody's car in the parking lot and we're investigating it, but we don't know who it was. You could enter that as an informational report and just say, hey, law enforcement stopped by. I just want to make a note that this incident occurred, and then that way we'll have a record of it. So if we do find out later who it was, we can go and change this. But if you don't know who the person is involved in the incident, that would be an informational report. A housing policy violation is only for housing policies. So this doesn't include alcohol and marijuana and all those things I listed before for the student conduct report. While those things are also student conduct concerns, this section is for things that are only housing policy violations. So if you get a noise complaint, somebody has furniture that they're not supposed to have in their room, maybe you find a candle during move out, something like that. So this is not for alcohol or marijuana or law violations. This is just if somebody violates something in the housing policy handbook. So for example, if a student, say, had a Nerf gun and was shooting at people in the lobby and just joking, that might be considered a housing policy violation. You tell them to put it away. They say, oh, sorry, they listen to you. I would put that as a housing policy violation, not a student conduct report. The difference is if somebody was hurt, someone was offended, law enforcement had to be called, the student complained or argued with you, then that would become a behavioral concern. Hopefully that makes sense. You're welcome to ask me questions by email, and I will certainly respond to those if anything in this video doesn't make sense. So the next one that you'll probably use is a PAC Cares referral. This is for students who need support from the university but aren't committing any kind of policy violations. So maybe a student had a really bad breakup and they're failing all their classes, or maybe a student tells you that a loved one passed away, or maybe they're experiencing some mental health concerns. You would submit a PAC Cares referral, and then some people at the institution would reach out to them, like maybe the counseling center, and say, hey, do you know about our services? So you could use a PAC CARES referral for that. The other two are sexual harassment and discrimination policies. These are both from our Title IX office, which I'm sure you'll receive additional training about, but just know that those exist for now. These other two you probably won't use very often. We have an academic integrity. That's so teachers can report if a student was cheating. And then the last one is a medical transport. Say a student was playing basketball in the rec and they broke their leg. That was what this would be used for. So you probably won't use that very much because you'll still want to report that as a residence life informational report if it happens in the residence halls. So this part's really important, so please be sure and remember what these are for. I can also answer any questions that you may have, so feel free to ask at any time. So for the date, let's just say 04, and this is the date of the incident, right? So this is not the date that you're filling out the report. This matters because when I go to pull up the report, I need to know when it happened. So maybe this happened over a week ago, and that will trigger an alert to me that I need to get on this quickly because it's kind of an old report, okay? Location incident. This lists all of the locations on campus, so you'll see Crestone, Calibra, Greenhorn, etc. So let's pick Calibra. If we pick this, though, and we know there's a specific room involved, please put the room number, like 428A or B, right? Because if you just put 428, I'm not going to know which side of the suite that you may be talking about, and it can be really hard to track down students. So please be as specific as possible. If it was just the lobby, you can just type in lobby. If it was in the parking lot or the oval, you can type in oval. All of those things will make sense. Just try to be as specific as possible. So the next section is for involved parties. This is where you'll put students' names. So let's say Joe Smith as an example. Joe Smith maybe was smoking marijuana in his room, or maybe he smelled like marijuana when he was in the lobby. So you're going to have to pick which one of these he might be. So because he's accused of creating a policy violation, he would be the accused party, okay? Say you know his PID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No hyphens, no dashes. These should always be a 6-digit number. If you don't know a PID, say maybe they're a non-resident, you could say Colorado driver's license number and then put the number here, okay? But for PIDs, you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no hyphens. If you don't know the date of birth, that's okay. Just leave it blank. If you don't know any of this other information, that's okay. Leave it blank. We can find it. Say Joe was smoking marijuana and he yelled at another student in the lobby, and then the student reported it. So that would be Jane Doe, and then Jane Doe is going to either be your victim or your witness. Maybe Jane just saw him smoking marijuana in the parking lot. She's going to be a witness. If Jane saw him smoking marijuana and then he walked up and yelled at her, she may be the victim. So use your best judgment in reporting these two things differently. Student of concern, if you remember, we go back up here to where it said the nature of the report. If we pick a PAC CARES referral, then that would be a student of concern. It's a student that we're concerned about. It's not a student that violated a policy, okay? So that's the difference in those. So we're going to call Jane our victim at this point. We're going to give her a PID of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can add as many of these as you want. I think it goes up to 12. If you ever have an incident where you have more than 12, just get in touch with me because there's some other things that I can do so you don't have to fill out multiple reports. So then we go to fill out the information here. So I need to know who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? Like we learn in elementary school. So provide a description here as specific as you can. Remember to speak in the third person. This is important because we also need you to write very detailed information so that I know who everyone is that you're talking about. I'll share with you in another video how to better write an incident report, but just know for this particular section, it needs to be very detailed. Think about this as you don't know who's reading it. Maybe I have to read it as the director of conduct. Maybe the assistant dean needs to read it. Maybe the dean needs to read it. Maybe it goes all the way to the president of the university who may need to review this. So it's very important that you write professionally and detailed and give us as much information as possible because you don't know who's reading this report. Remember, this is a job for you, so we need you to write really professional and be professional in these incident reports. So again, more on that later. So this next section, we just need to know who responded. You are housing, so you don't need to talk about housing responding. You can click this button. It's not going to do anything. If the sheriffs were called, you'll check that. If the ambulance had to show up, you'll check that. Just be sure Whoever's responding down here, you need to explain up here. What time did the sheriffs arrive? Who was the sheriff's officer? Because I may need to call the sheriff's department and get a report from them also. So be as specific as you can about these departments that may have responded. If there's an additional department that responded, maybe the student's advisor was with them during the incident. Please put that up there so we have enough witnesses that I can go back and check. This next section is for background information. You see these students probably on a daily basis, much more than we do. Say a student comes in drunk in the middle of the night and they broke up with their boyfriend earlier in that day. This behavior is very out of the ordinary for them. In this section, you can say, I know that Jane and Joe broke up earlier in the day. I think that may have been while they were yelling at each other. This is not normal behavior for either student. Something along those lines. So if you have additional background information, please put that here. But for this box, we just want to know about the specific incident you're reporting. If you have additional info that may be related to the incident but didn't happen during the incident, please put that here. If there's anyone else you'd like us to know about this incident, maybe the student says, please contact my counselor. This is their name and their information. We can put that here. You don't have to tell me to talk to your supervisor. I've probably already spoken to your supervisor, so don't feel like you have to put that in there. But if there's someone else, maybe another RA was a witness to the incident or knows some information about this student, you could put that there and say, I'd like for their RA to be informed because they're very close to their RA. We can put that information here. You as an employee, there's no point for you to request anonymity, so you won't need this box. But if you ever are talking to another student and they really want to report something, but they're nervous about what they're going to say and they want it to be anonymous, they can click this box, okay? If there are any files, if you took any photos or anything along those lines, you'll pop up this dialog box and you can add those. And then once you're done, wait a minute. Actually, if you did add a file, let's add this. So you'll see here how big it is. It may take a second to load. So keep that in mind and I'll show you something here. When you go to submit the report, you see down here it's an upload box. It may take a minute for things to upload. So because I attached a movie to this report, it's telling me that it's uploading and it's going very slowly. So be sure and don't click that submit button multiple times. You can also see up here in the tab, it's working and it's spinning. So just give it a minute to do its thing. Don't click it multiple times. Don't feel like your report either did or didn't go in. Just give it a second. So if you ever write a really long report or you attach something with a lot of photos, this is the kind of box that you're going to get. I'm going to remove that just so we can see what it looks like when we submit. So once you submit, you should get a report that looks like this. This has a confirmation number. It has all the information that you need. If you do not get this dialog box, we did not get your report. So make sure that you see this before closing out the window. A lot of students have also suggested you write your incident report in a Word doc and then copy and paste it into this form, because sometimes if you take too long on here, it might time out on you. So if you ever don't get a thing that says thank you for submitting a report, we did not get your report. So just keep that in mind. Unfortunately, if we don't get it and you've already clicked submit, you cannot go back. Everything will be blank. So you can try it, but it may not have saved your information. But please just make sure that you get that information to us. Okay? Again, I'll submit another video for you to talk more about how to write an incident report. And if you have any questions, just give me a shout.